Hey there, this is Seth, and in this video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I rationalize and decide where to start investing in vacant land. And this is a question that I get from people a lot, particularly if they're just trying to figure out which market to go to, which state, which county, which city, something like that. When I first got started, just speaking for myself, in my mind, the only place that made sense to start investing was right near where I lived, like right in my own backyard. And I mean, it worked. I mean, I think honestly there's probably opportunities everywhere, but as I've kind of learned, I think probably the best places to target if you're really trying to be specific about it is to find a major metropolitan area and then look for the counties that are surrounding that area and start there. So just to give you an example, let's go and take a look at Seattle, Washington. And I'm literally just picking this city at random. There's nothing specific about it, but just to show you an example of a big city. And if you were trying to invest in land in this general vicinity of the country, just to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about, I would not necessarily start in the actual county where Seattle is located. Instead, where I would be looking are the counties surrounding that area. So again, this is in Google Earth, and you don't have to use Google Earth to do this. I find it to be a pretty easy program to use for this particular purpose. And when I go to Seattle and then I start zooming out, I can start to see these lines here that show me where the different counties are in the state of Washington. And let's just go to this one to the south of Seattle. And this particular county is called Lewis County, as I can see right there. Looks like this one over here to the west is Pacific County. And we've got Grays Harbor County. We've got Mason County up here. And you'll notice all these counties, I mean, when you zoom in, there's a lot of green space, a lot of vacant land here. Looks like this one right here has a lot of nice little mountain ranges, as you can see. That's another nice thing about Google Earth, is you can get a really good look at the topography of where you're at. But and by the way, all I'm using here is just the control button and then my right and left mouse buttons to do this. But I mean, really the point is, I mean, when you're specifically trying to target vacant land, you're not going to find a ton of vacant land in most major cities. And the vacant land that you do find a lot of times is not necessarily going to be the most desirable. Like I know in some of the cities I've looked at, I mean, when I find a vacant lot, it's more of like it's kind of like in the ghetto of town where a house was torn down and the land is just sitting there. And that kind of land is not the sort of area where somebody's going to actually buy it for the purpose of building a house. That's just not why people buy in the inner city like that. So given that, I'm trying to buy properties that are seen as desirable, sort of like a retreat, like a home away from home, I'm usually looking for something that's going to be like an hour to 2 hour worth of a drive for people. So say if somebody lived in Seattle and they wanted to reach their little retreat or vacation home property within an hour or 2 hours, to do that, I mean, you'd probably want to get a property that's not necessarily in Seattle, but in one of these surrounding counties, or even further for that matter. But I've found that usually the ones that are just surrounding a major metropolitan area are usually the best bet. So, for example, and when you get down here, you see Portland. So, say if Portland was your target area, you could look in this county right there. What is that? Skamania, Hood River County. We got Clackamas. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but you kind of get the idea. Well, I mean, really, once you find any significant city, I mean, just look at the counties surrounding it, and really any of those would be fair game. And for that matter, I mean, along those same lines, I mean, another sort of separate question that I get a lot of times from people when they're trying to pursue a particular county, and for one reason or another, it's just not working out. Like they either can't get the list from their county to start their direct mail campaign, or they've gotten the list, but it's just a mess and they can't figure it out. Or maybe even, for one reason or another, just the county systems or, public services or anything like that, it's just making the process very, very difficult. And I've been there. I completely know what that's like. And I guess my answer to that is, if at any point you decide this just isn't worth it, this is not working, this county is just way too difficult to work in, all you got to do is, look at the next county over that's surrounding the same metropolitan area and try that one. Give them a call, see if you can get their list, or connect the dots where you weren't able to do it before. But one other insight, just I kind of noticed this as I'm looking at this map. You'll see in this section over near Portland, you've got a lot of green space. Those kind of properties are very, very good to get. And I say that in kind of a broad terminology. There's obviously issues that can come up with any property, but land that's like wooded, or anything that has like a beauty factor to it, is going to have a built-in selling incentive for anybody to want to buy that. If you go over here to these counties here, you'll see it's almost kind of like a desert. And desert land can certainly work as well. I'm not saying it's a lost cause, but it doesn't necessarily have that whole beauty factor to it, because it's just a desert, and then what can you do, and what would you want to do if you had land out in the middle of nowhere where there's just sand surrounding you? So again, I'm not saying desert land doesn't work, because it certainly can, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're trying to target the county where you want to work in. If you have a choice, and you usually do, just try to make it a spot where there's something that's obviously desirable about it. Like, again, looking back here in the Seattle area, I mean, we've got mountain ranges here, we've got ocean right there, we've got lakes, we've got Seattle, obviously, which isn't too far away. I mean, this general vicinity, a lot of good things about it, a lot of good reasons to try to start pursuing these. If we were to move over to, say, Nevada, and just go to like this barren, hostile wasteland kind of area, I mean, can it work? Probably. I'm sure there's somebody out there who would buy it, but I mean, it's not necessarily the number one spot that I would target if I could pick anywhere in the world or the country. So I guess just keep those sort of points in mind. Look for a city that's doing well, that has a generally good perception to it, and then just start looking in the counties surrounding that city, not the actual metropolitan area itself. Like, for example, here in Sacramento, I would probably not look in Sacramento County at all. I would probably not look in this county to the north at all. And I say that simply because I can see a lot of this gray area, which is essentially just densely populated. But, look over here to this area in Sutter County or Yolo County. I mean, any of these, whenever you start seeing a lot more green space, that's a good sign. And those are the kind of areas that you would definitely want to start looking at if you're specifically targeting vacant land. It's kind of a different thought process than, flipping homes or buying apartment buildings. Just kind of forget what you know about that, because when you're looking at land, there's different things to consider and different reasons why people buy vacant land specifically. So again, I'm usually looking at rural areas that are surrounding big cities. That's worked out pretty well for me. So for those of you who aren't even sure where to start, or if you're having issues where you're currently looking, all you got to do is find one of those spots and start looking within the 1 to 2 hour drive away from those areas and see what you can find. So hopefully that helps. Wish you all the best, and thanks for checking out the video. See ya.